Have you ever observed that the most vocal individual in any space tends to be the most fragile? Constantly speaking, constantly demonstrating something, constantly pursuing acceptance. But the most resilient individual, the one who operates in quietness, that's the one who genuinely prevails. Let me share something. Existence has a method of providing you precisely what you require at precisely the correct moment, but only if you discover how to be calm, only if you discover how to be peaceful, only if you discover how to believe in the journey. Because when you cease compelling, when you cease pleading, when you cease justifying yourself to individuals who never bothered to comprehend you, that's when existence begins functioning in your benefit. The correct circumstances will arrive. The correct individuals will remain. The incorrect ones will eliminate themselves. All you must do is remain peaceful and allow it to occur. Quietness is strength, not merely the lack of speech, but the existence of consciousness. The instant you cease speaking, the instant you withstand the impulse to justify yourself, protect yourself, or demonstrate your value to those who don't merit your attention, that's when you reclaim authority. You commence to observe, not just to statements, but to what remains unspoken, to the atmosphere in the space, to the concealed intentions behind individuals' behaviors, to the reality that's hidden beneath all the commotion. Most individuals can't tolerate quietness. They speak because they dread it. They speak because they feel unseen. They speak because they believe being more vocal makes them more resilient. But genuine strength isn't about how extensively you communicate. It's about what you execute in the instances of self-control. It's about endurance. It's about possessing the commitment to watch and comprehend before responding. Consider the individuals you respect most. The commanders, the innovators, the ones who demand admiration. Naturally, they don't squander statements. They don't occupy area with worthless conversation. They don't attempt to captivate you with hollow commitments or inflated narratives when they communicate. Individuals observe, and why? Because their statements possess significance. And what provides their statements significance? Knowledge, understanding, purpose. That's the strength of quietness. When you cease speaking, you begin observing not just to others but to yourself. You commence to identify the considerations that genuinely matter. You begin recognizing the cautions you previously dismissed. You perceive more distinctly who is genuinely for you and who is just performing a character in your existence. Because when you're constantly communicating, you can't watch, you can't examine. You can't interpret between the statements, and you overlook the instances when individuals expose precisely who they are. Individuals will constantly demonstrate you who they are if you permit them, but most never recognize because they're too occupied attempting to demonstrate something. When you remain peaceful, you generate area for individuals to expose their genuine character. You don't have to inquire if they're faithful. Just observe. You don't have to request admiration. Just be calm and perceive how they regard you. When you're no longer executing for their acceptance, succeeding in existence isn't about how extensively you communicate. It's about how extensively you comprehend. When you observe more than you communicate, you discover you identify circumstances before they become apparent. You perceive individuals' genuine purposes before they have the opportunity to mislead you. You detect circumstances transforming before they capture you. Unprepared quietness delivers understanding, and understanding is what distinguishes the resilient from the fragile. Consider a strategic competition. The finest participants don't execute careless actions. They don't declare their approach. They remain in quietness, interpreting the situation, analyzing their challenger, anticipating the correct instant to move. That's how existence functions. The ones who communicate excessively, they reveal their intentions before they even execute an action. They disclose their vulnerabilities without even understanding it. But the one who remains peaceful, the one who watches, that's the one who constantly remains advanced. Individuals admire quietness more than statements, because anyone can communicate. Anyone can establish commitments. Anyone can assert to be resilient, understanding, or in authority, but genuine strength doesn't require to declare itself. Genuine strength is experienced. It's in existence and behavior, in the capability to remain in quietness and still demand focus. When you cease speaking, you begin recognizing. You identify the subtle transformations in individuals when they're deceiving you, perceive the delicate modifications in their expression when they're being dishonest. You identify reluctance, inconsistencies, and the atmosphere behind their statements, and that degree of consciousness, that profundity of comprehension, is something most individuals never achieve because they're too occupied occupying the quietness instead of observing to what it discloses. There's a justification why the most peaceful individuals in the space are frequently the most influential. They're not peaceful because they possess nothing to communicate. They're peaceful because they're observing, because they're examining, because they comprehend that statements can be an interruption. But quietness is an instrument. When you begin observing more than you communicate, you understand just how extensively pointless commotion exists in the reality, how many disputes aren't deserving your attention, how many justifications are squandered on individuals who have previously determined what they desire to accept, how many regrets you never required to provide because you weren't incorrect in the initial position. Quietness is strength. It prevents you from responding rashly. It maintains you from expressing circumstances you'll subsequently remorse it, assists you, prevent conflicts that aren't deserving your attention. It permits you to advance with intention, with accuracy, and with a transparent perspective. When you accept quietness, you commence to eliminate those who desire your focus, but absence your finest interests at soul. You cease participating in discussions that deplete you. You no longer experience the impulse to reply to every criticism, every uncertainty, or every obstacle presented your direction, because genuine strength doesn't dispute it, merely exists, unaltered, undeniable. Some of existence's most significant achievements arrive, not from communicating, but from understanding when to remain peaceful, from permitting your behaviors, your commitment, and your outcomes communicate for you, from maintaining your sentiments, protected from declining to respond when others anticipate you, to because the instant someone discovers how to stimulate you, they obtain authority over you. But when you remain peaceful, when you decline to permit them, determine your reply, that's when you become unstoppable. It's not simple to be peaceful in a reality that compares being vocal with being significant but genuine importance. Genuine strength has nothing to accomplish with how extensively commotion you generate. It's in the importance of your existence. It's in the influence of your behaviors. It's in the commitment of understanding when to restrain. When you cease speaking, you begin observing, and when you begin observing, you begin succeeding, because understanding resides in the peaceful strength, is constructed in calmness. And those who dominate quietness dominate existence. Urgency pushes away what you crave. The more you pursue something, the more it opposes you. This relates not only to individuals, but to everything. Achievement, associations, admiration, circumstances, the instant you begin running after them. You transmit an atmosphere of deficiency, of requirement, and nothing precious responds favorably to urgency. Consider it: have you ever attempted capturing a delicate creature with your palms? The more you extend for it, the further it travels. But the instant you remain motionless, the instant you cease grasping it, settle softly on your position. Existence functions the identical direction. The more intense you pursue, the more rapid circumstances escape away. But when you cease, when you concentrate on yourself, when you represent endurance and assurance, everything begins moving toward you. Individuals are instinctively attracted to what experience is uncommon, what experience is precious. But when you pursue someone, when you establish yourself excessively accessible, you reduce that worth your behaviors, transmit the communication that you're prepared to overreach yourself just to maintain them in your existence. And when someone detects that they're more significant to you than you are to yourself, they commence to accept you for certain. They withdraw. They challenge limitations because you've demonstrated them. They don't have to function to maintain you. But when you cease pursuing, when you cease beginning every discussion, establishing every connection, and attempting to demonstrate your value, that's when circumstances transform. That's when individuals begin recognizing your lack. That's when they commence to question why you're no longer accessible, why you've ceased attempting, and unexpectedly they begin pursuing you. not because you controlled them, but because you ultimately comprehended your worth enough to cease running after what was never running toward you. The identical principle relates to achievement. Those who flourish in existence aren't the ones requesting for circumstances. They aren't the ones compelling circumstances before their moment. They are the ones who organize, who construct, who remain enduring. They believe the journey, they function in quietness. And because of that, the correct circumstances instinctively discover them. Observe at the individuals who are urgent to be appreciated, constantly attempting to demonstrate themselves. They're draining to be surrounding. They attempt excessively, intense. They overcompensate, and in executing so they forfeit admiration. But those who transport themselves with peaceful assurance, who aren't urgent for acceptance, demand, focus, naturally. They don't require to be appreciated, they merely exist, as they are, and that atmosphere alone captivates everything to them. Pursuing is established in anxiety, the anxiety of forfeiting, the anxiety of overlooking, the anxiety of not being adequate. But the instant you release that anxiety, when you ultimately understand you don't require to pursue anything to be deserving, everything transforms you. Transport yourself distinctly, you communicate distinctly. You cease accepting fragments because you understand. You merit the complete celebration. You cease requesting for affection because you comprehend that genuine affection never demands requesting. When you cease pursuing, you begin captivating, because you commence functioning from a position of prosperity. Instead of deficiency, you understand that what is intended for you will never demand you to forfeit yourself to maintain it. The correct individuals will perceive your worth without you having to demonstrate it. The correct circumstances will arrive when you're prepared, not when you're urgent. It's not about executing psychological competitions. It's not about disregarding individuals, just to establish them, desire you more. It's about genuinely comprehending that pursuing isn't essential when you're protected in yourself. You don't have to compel what's intended for you. You don't have to request for duration, affection, or attempt. If someone appreciates you, they will demonstrate up, and if they don't, pursuing them wouldn't have modified anything. Have you ever recognized that when you cease caring so extensively, circumstances begin to function out? The position you abandoned on unexpectedly contacts you back. The individual who advanced on unexpectedly extends out. The circumstance you believed was absent unexpectedly arrives back. Surrounding that's not fortune, it's arrangement. When you cease pursuing, you recover authority. The contradiction of existence is that the more you attempt to authority circumstances, the more disorganized they become. But when you advance, back, release, and concentrate on yourself, everything begins to arrange. The correct individuals, the correct timing, the correct circumstances, they arrive naturally. Genuine strength isn't in pursuing. It's in understanding you never had to in the initial position. There is strength in quietness, strength in maintaining your aspirations, intentions, and subsequent actions to yourself. Not everyone merits to understand what you're functioning on or where you're directed. Some individuals only desire to perceive your intentions so they can establish uncertainty in your perspective. Others desire to perceive your subsequent action so they can obstruct it, and some just desire to observe, not to assist, but to capitalize when you overshare. You welcome pointless atmosphere into your existence. Atmosphere that depletes, discourages, and even undermines you. Some individuals will grin to your expression. Not in arrangement, but the instant you depart away, they're anticipating you decline. Not everyone desires to perceive you succeed. Your development reminds them of everything they haven't executed, so they establish foundations of uncertainty. They challenge your capabilities. They behave like they don't comprehend, but in reality, they just don't desire you to flourish. The more you communicate, the more entrance you provide individuals to your perspective, but not everyone merits that entrance. Some individuals should only perceive the ultimate outcome, not the journey. Some should only perceive about the outcomes, not the intense function behind them. Because when you reveal your intentions too rapidly, you provide others the opportunity to interrupt, to discourage you to establish. You reconsider yourself. Consider how many aspirations have expired because someone communicated too rapidly. How many individuals were enthusiastic about a concept, shared it with the incorrect individual, and unexpectedly experienced uncertainty emerge in not everyone is supporting. For you, some will simulate to assist you, but profoundly they don't desire you to surpass them. Quietness protects your aspirations. It maintains your atmosphere concentrated when you cease justifying yourself, when you cease declaring your intentions. You provide yourself the liberty to advance without interruptions, without external perspectives, without tension. You just install in the function and permit the outcomes. Execute the speaking. The most achieved individuals don't declare their every action. They function in quietness, laboring when no one is observing. And by the duration, individuals understand what they've executed. It's too delayed to prevent them. That's how you have to advance peacefully with commitment, without pursuing acceptance or acceptance. A commanding creature doesn't have to vocalize every instant to demonstrate it's a commanding creature. It advances with assurance, strength, and certainty. You don't have to demonstrate yourself to anyone. You don't have to justify. Your every action remain concentrated, remain reliable, and permit your outcomes communicate for themselves. Too many individuals squander their atmosphere, justifying their intentions to the incorrect individuals they invest. Duration attempting to persuade others they're dedicated about their objectives. But the reality is, no one requires to accept in your aspiration except you. No one requires to comprehend your perspective except you. Because when you genuinely accept in yourself, you don't require authorization. You don't require acceptance. You just require behavior. The most significant concepts, enterprises, and accomplishments all initiated in quietness. Before they modified the reality, they were constructed in the obscurity, away from the commotion, away from pointless perspectives, and that's precisely where you require to be. The individuals who accomplish the most don't squander duration, justifying their intentions. They invest duration, constructing them. When you function in quietness, you protect your atmosphere. You don't squander duration, protecting your determinations. You don't permit external statements interrupt with your acceleration. You remain in authority. You advance without anxiety of evaluation or the importance of other individuals' uncertainties. And when you ultimately expose what you've been functioning on, it communicates for itself. Some individuals inquire about your intentions just to relate them to their own. They desire to perceive if you're advanced of them, if you're executing superior, and the instant they understand you are, they either attempt to discourage you or duplicate you. But when you remain peaceful and maintain your actions confidential, they possess nothing to relate, nothing to challenge with, and nothing to interrupt with. There's a justification why the most influential actions in history were established in quietness. A justification why the most significant achievements are disclosed only when they are previously unstoppable, because when you function in the foundation, no one perceives you arriving, and that is your most significant benefit. Permit them, question, permit them, presume, permit them. Believe you're executing nothing. Meanwhile, you are developing, you are constructing, you are becoming something superior. And when the duration is correct, when your function is prepared to be perceived, there will be nothing they can execute to prevent it. Because by then, it won't be about statements. It will be about outcomes, and outcomes communicate for themselves. Endurance is one of the most significant strengths an individual can possess. Yet too many individuals confuse it for fragility in a reality consumed with immediate outcomes, rapid achievement, and instantaneous modifications. Endurance has become underappreciated. Individuals accept anticipating as a squander of duration. That decelerating means descending behind. That if something doesn't occur immediately, it won't occur at all. But that's not how existence functions. The most resilient, most achieved, most satisfied individuals comprehend that magnificent circumstances require duration. They don't accelerate. They don't compel. They believe the journey when you absence. Endurance, you establish urgent determinations. You compromise for inferior than you merit. You accept alternatives that expense you more in the extended duration. Impatience results to errors entering into the incorrect associations, accepting positions, that don't arrange with your intention, abandoning when circumstances get challenging, just because you don't perceive immediate outcomes, but when you believe the journey, when you recognize that magnificent circumstances require duration, you establish superior selections, you advance distinctly. You anticipate for what genuinely arranges with you instead of seizing whatever is accessible out of anxiety that nothing superior will arrive. Observe at the most resilient formations in the reality. The most elevated constructions, the most solid establishments, they require years to construct. You can't accelerate the establishment and anticipate the construction to endure the identical. Is genuine for anything significant in existence. A resilient association isn't constructed instantaneously. An achieved enterprise doesn't occur in a period. A durable perspective isn't established in a duration. These circumstances require endurance, persistence, and belief. Even when you don't perceive immediate outcomes, endurance is commitment. It's the capability to maintain advancing, even when there's no evidence that circumstances are functioning. Yet it's demonstrating. Up every duration, executing the function, accepting in yourself, even when nothing surrounding you is modifying. Because genuine achievement doesn't occur in one significant dramatic instant. It occurs in the minor reliable attempts that accumulate. Over duration, too many individuals abandon too rapidly. They establish foundations, but depart away when they don't perceive development, correct away. But just because you can't perceive something occurring doesn't mean it isn't occurring. The most significant development occurs beneath the exterior. Before it ever becomes apparent, foundations require duration. To develop profound establishments require duration to stabilize. And if you maintain excavating up your foundations, just because they aren't developing rapid adequate, you'll never perceive the collection. Endurance isn't about executing nothing. It's not about anticipating passively, anticipating circumstances, magically descend into position. It's about believing the journey, while persisting to function, persisting to accept, persisting to construct. Even when there's no immediate compensation, it's the capability to maintain advancing without requiring immediate satisfaction. Civilization instructs individuals that if they don't perceive rapid outcomes, they're declining, that if they aren't establishing significant actions, they're descending behind. But genuine strength arrives from comprehending that not everything occurs on your schedule. Some circumstances require extended because they are intended to be more resilient, more durable, more unshakable. The extended, you anticipate the superior. The compensation, the more resilient. The establishment, the elevated, you can construct. Endurance is also evidence of self-authority. It's simple to get annoyed when circumstances don't occur. Rapid adequate. It's simple to relate yourself to others and experience like you're behind. But when you are genuinely assured in your direction, you don't require to accelerate. You don't require to pursue. You don't require to compel anything. Because what's intended for you will constantly arrive at the correct duration, in the correct direction. When you're genuinely prepared, you execute your portion and permit the outcomes develop as they're intended to. The most achieved individuals aren't the ones who accelerated to the summit. They're the ones who accepted their duration, constructed cautiously, and remained reliable. They understood that alternatives result to obstacles, accelerating results to remorse, and impatience results to compromising. They comprehended that anything deserving possessing is deserving. Anticipating for some of the most significant errors arrive from impatience, departing too rapidly, compromising, too rapidly responding instead of anticipating. But when you exercise endurance, you establish superior determinations. You provide yourself duration to perceive the complete image before behaving. You prevent pointless tension because you believe that what's intended for you will arrive at the correct duration. Believing the journey means comprehending that postponements aren't refusal. Just because something isn't occurring now doesn't mean it never will. Some entrances remain secured until you're genuinely prepared to depart through them. Some circumstances don't function out because something superior is forward. Some challenges endure extended because they're instructing you something you require for the subsequent degree. But if you abandon too rapidly, if you depart away just because it's requiring extended than anticipated, You'll never perceive the compensations that endurance was organizing you, for the most resilient individuals aren't the ones who compel circumstances. They are the ones who believe, who function, and who anticipate, because they understand that when the duration is correct, everything will descend into position precisely as it should. Quietness is one of the most influential instruments you possess. It is in quietness that the reality is disclosed. When you cease justifying yourself, when you cease protecting your behaviors, when you cease validating your selections, individuals will commence to demonstrate you precisely who they are. Some will remain, some will separation themselves, some will become uneasy, and some will attempt to extract you back to a position where they can authority you. But if you remain peaceful, if you oppose the impulse to justify, you will begin to perceive the reality that statements have been concealing up. Most individuals communicate because they desire to be comprehended. They desire to be perceived. They desire others to perceive their perspective, to understand their purposes, to admiration, their determinations. But what occurs when you cease justifying? That's when the reality arrives out. That's when you perceive who was genuinely observing, who was only simulating to assist you, who was anticipating for you to decline, and who never genuinely cared in the initial position. When you justify yourself excessively, you provide individuals entrance to your considerations, your sentiments, and your susceptibilities. Some individuals only desire to perceive. You communicate so they can utilize your statements against you. They desire you to validate your limitations so they can fracture them. They desire you to justify your development so they can discover a direction to prevent it. They desire you to protect yourself so they can discover directions to diminish your dispute. But when you remain peaceful, you eliminate their strength. Quietness establishes individuals uneasy because it compels them to disclose themselves. When you cease pursuing, they demonstrate you, if they ever genuinely cared. When you cease justifying, they demonstrate you, if they ever genuinely comprehended. When you cease extending out, they demonstrate you, if they ever genuinely appreciated your existence. The ones who remain, who admiration, your quietness, who still demonstrate up, those are the ones who matter. But the ones who vanish, who get irritated, who attempt to responsibility journey you into communicating, those are the ones who were only there for what they could accept from you. Individuals disclose their genuine purposes when they are no longer being entertained. When you cease contacting who contacts you, when you cease establishing intentions, who still establishes the attempt, when you cease justifying, who still attempts to comprehend. These are the inquiries that quietness responds, and the reality might damage, but it will establish you. Liberated quietness also reveals how extensively authority others believe they possess over you. Some individuals only admiration you when they experience like they possess the superior position. The instant you cease participating, cease nourishing into their control, they anxiety, they get irritated, they blame you of being separated, of being frigid, of modifying. But you didn't modify, you just ceased executing their competition. You ceased providing them the responses they desired. You ceased justifying your value to individuals who never genuinely appreciated it. When you justify yourself excessively, you welcome individuals to dispute with. You communicate them while you're establishing a determination, and they attempt to persuade you. Otherwise, you communicate them while you require area, and they attempt to establish you experience responsible for it. You communicate them your limitations, and they attempt to negotiate. But when you remain peaceful, when you merely establish your actions without declaring them, individuals possess no selection, but to respond honestly. They either admiration it, or they don't. And that's how you perceive the reality without even having to inquire for it. Quietness is a reflection. It compels individuals to contemplate on their own behaviors, purposes, and genuine emotions. When you advance back and cease validating yourself, individuals are departed with the reality of who they are without your statements concealing it up. Some will understand they accepted you for certain. Some will identify they never genuinely appreciated you. And some will reveal the reality that they never cared in the Initial position, they just appreciated the authority they possessed over your atmosphere. Individuals are so accustomed to commotion interruptions and continuous confirmation. They depend on endless discussions to prevent confronting the reality. But quietness eliminates all of that. It compels reality to stabilize in it, establishes individuals challenge their own considerations, sentiments, and errors. That's why so many individuals despise it. When you cease justifying, individuals can no longer distort your statements. They can't simulate to miscomprehend you. They can't utilize your atmosphere for their advantage. They possess to demonstrate up as they genuinely are without the protection of discussion to protect them. And that is when you perceive everything distinctly. Quietness also protects your tranquility. It permits you to watch without responding. It provides you area to consider before you reply, to perceive a circumstance for what it genuinely is before obtaining. Emotionally participating. When you are peaceful, you recognize circumstances you would possess. Overlooked in the commotion, you perceive who admiration your limitations, and who only pursues them when it's convenient. You perceive who examines in because they care, and who only extends out when they require something. You perceive who appreciates your existence and who only appreciates your focus. Some individuals don't observe to comprehend. They observe to reply. They observe to dispute. Control and challenge their own plan. The instant you cease communicating, they possess nothing departed to possess onto. And that's when they disclose whether they were ever genuinely there for you or just for the interpretation of you they could. Authority. Quietness demonstrates you who admiration you even when you're not justifying yourself, who remains by you even when you're not validating your determinations, who assists you even when you're not attempting to persuade them of your value. Because genuine associations, whether friendships, family, or affection, don't demand continuous justification. They don't require evidence of your worth over and over. Again, genuine connections exist. Even in the peaceful, they don't vanish just because you cease speaking. The individuals who continuously require you to justify yourself are the ones who never genuinely comprehended you in the initial position. The ones who get irritated when you cease validating your determinations are the ones who only experience comfortable when they possessed authority over your selections, and the ones who vanish the instant you cease speaking. They were never genuinely there for you at all. Quietness is not fragility. It is not prevention. It is not an absence of interaction. Quietness is an approach. It is a direction to protect your atmosphere. Disclose the reality and perceive who is genuinely intended to be in your existence, because the individuals who are intended for you will never demand continuous justifications. They will comprehend you even in the quietness. They will admiration you even when you're not pursuing acceptance. They will remain even. When you cease speaking, the reality constantly discloses itself. When the commotion disappears away, and the instant you accept quietness, you will perceive everything more distinctly than ever before. Acceptance is in substance a peaceful dependence that authorities individuals without them even understanding it. It initiates minor, the craving to be recognized, the requirement to be acknowledged, the desire for someone to communicate. You're executing magnificent, and before you understand it, you're existing. Your existence established on the responses of others. You attire a certain direction for acceptance. You communicate a certain direction to accommodate, and you pursue circumstances that don't even matter to you, just because they appear achieved in the perspectives of others and in executing. So you forfeit yourself. The requirement for acceptance is one of the most significant obstacles in existence. It maintains individuals trapped. It maintains them executing minor. It maintains them anxious. Anxious to accept dangers. Anxious to remain alone. Anxious to existence on their own conditions, because as extended as you pursue acceptance, you are providing others strength over you. You are permitting them determine what is correct for you. You are permitting them establish what is acceptable, what is deserving. And when you execute that, you cease being in authority of your own fate. Genuine strength does not request to be recognized. It does not pursue celebration. It does not require acceptance before accepting behavior. The individuals who are genuinely influential, the ones who are genuinely admired, advance with peaceful assurance. They don't require to declare what they're executing. They don't require to justify themselves. They don't require authorization to be magnificent. They just are. And when you cease pursuing acceptance, you obtain a fresh degree of admiration, not just from others, but from yourself. When you genuinely understand your value, you advance distinctly. You cease searching for verification before establishing a determination. You cease anticipating for someone to communicate you. You're on the correct direction. You cease depending on approvals, remarks, celebration, or focus to experience precious, because you previously understand your worth, and when you understand that you no longer possess to demonstrate it. Individuals' admiration, those who don't request for focus. They respect those who don't require continuous confirmation. They are attracted to those with peaceful, unshakable assurance, because profoundly everyone understands that genuine strength doesn't vocalize, it merely exists. It doesn't require spectators to be genuine. It doesn't require acceptance to occupy area. It just is. Observe at the most influential, achieved, and admired individuals in the reality. They are not the ones continuously pursuing focus. They are not the ones who require to be communicated. They are magnificent. They are the ones who install their perspectives down and execute the function they construct in quietness. They advance with intention. They don't behave for identification. They behave because they accept in what they're executing. Pursuing acceptance is a fragility. When you depend on acceptance, you provide others the strength to establish your function. You require someone else to communicate you that you're adequate, that you're executing well, that you're deserving. And that's hazardous, because what occurs when that acceptance ceases? What occurs when individuals don't recognize you? When they don't celebrate for you? When they don't provide you the response you anticipated? For if you rely on their acceptance, you will begin to experience forfeited. You will begin to uncertainty yourself. You will begin to reluctance contract and challenge every action you establish. But when you cease pursuing acceptance, when you discover to accept yourself, nothing can disturb you. No quantity of evaluation can fracture you. No absence of celebration can prevent you. No rejection can establish you, challenge your value, because your assurance is not constructed on perspectives. It is constructed on an unshakable reality. You are adequate. You are capable. You are deserving, with or without identification. There is nothing incorrect with desiring to be appreciated. There is nothing incorrect with appreciating identification. But the instant you require it, the instant you rely on it, you become a captive to other individuals' perspectives, and that is the most rapid direction to forfeit yourself. Genuine strength doesn't pursue focus, the reality. Admiration, those who don't request for acceptance. It admiration, those who advance with peaceful intention, those who don't require acceptance to understand they're on the correct direction. Those who are so concentrated on their objective that they don't possess duration to pursue acceptance. That is genuine strength. That is genuine assurance. That is genuine resilience. When you cease pursuing acceptance, you begin to advance with a distinct atmosphere. You cease anticipating for authorization. You cease reluctancing. You cease overcompensating. You cease reducing your illumination to establish others comfortable. You advance completely into who you are, unapologetically, and that is when individuals begin to admiration you, because assurance is attractive. Self-certainty is influential, and nothing is more challenging than an individual who understands their value and declines to permit anyone determine it. Consider about the individuals who motivate you the most, the ones who transport themselves with peaceful resilience, the ones who don't request for focus, but demand it instinctively, the ones who don't pursue acceptance, but obtain admiration through their behaviors. What establishes them distinct? What establishes them influential? It's not their capability to obtain individuals to appreciate them. It's their capability to maintain advancing, maintain developing, and maintain flourishing. Whether individuals recognize or not, admiration is obtained, not by inquiring for it, not by pursuing it, but by existing in a direction that requires it, by demonstrating up for yourself, by demonstrating not to others, but to yourself, that you are capable by declining to contract, to request, or to dilute yourself down, just to be recognized. The instant you cease pursuing acceptance, everything modifies. You establish determinations with assurance instead of reluctance. You cease justifying yourself. You cease pursuing individuals who don't appreciate you. You cease attempting to accommodate into areas that were never intended for you and individuals. Recognize that they may not constantly communicate it, but they experience it. They admiration it, because genuine strength doesn't require spectators. It doesn't require celebration. It doesn't require acceptance to exist. It merely is. And when you comprehend that when you completely accept that you become unstoppable, lack is an influential instructor. It executes what statements cannot. It executes what justifications decline to execute. It compels individuals to remain with the reality of what they possessed, what they accepted for certain, and what they never genuinely appreciated. When you are constantly accessible, constantly existing, constantly providing, individuals become sightless to your worth. They presume you will constantly be there. They begin to accept that your compassion, your endurance, and your existence are provided. But the instant you eliminate yourself, the instant your existence is no longer certain, something transforms, and that's when they understand what they forfeited. Individuals seldom appreciate what they possess. When it's within extent, they presume affection. Faithfulness, attempt, and duration are circumstances they're authorized to. They accept compassion as an anticipation rather than a contribution. They accept that no matter how they behave, no matter how they disregard or abuse you, you will constantly remain. But lack is the awakening contact they never perceived arriving. It compels them to confront the vacancy. Departed behind it, establishes them, challenge the reality that nothing was ever certain. When you're constantly accessible, constantly responding, constantly demonstrating up despite how you're regarded, individuals forfeit perspective of your value. They presume you require them more than they require you. They presume that no matter how they behave, you will maintain providing. But when you eliminate yourself, when you advance back, when you cease justifying, pursuing, and demonstrating, they possess no selection, but to contemplate, and that contemplation is where the instruction commences. Lack discloses reality. Lack generates area for understanding. It compels individuals to experience the vacancy you once occupied. The telephone connections that no longer arrive, the assistance that is no longer there, the affection that is now absent, and in that quietness, in that vacancy, they ultimately commence to comprehend, not through statements, not through discussions, but through knowledge. What they possessed, what they forfeited existence, is frequently unrecognized until it transforms into lack. It's simple to disregard what's constantly there. It's simple to presume that something continuous will remain continuous. But when it's absent, when it's no longer readily accessible, the reality becomes unavoidable. Individuals understand, too delayed, that what they disregarded was actually irreplaceable. Lack discloses priorities. If someone genuinely appreciates you, they will experience your lack and accept behavior. They will identify their errors. They will contemplate on their conduct. They will advance forward and establish an attempt. But if someone was only utilizing you, if they only perceived you as an alternative, if they never genuinely appreciated you, your lack will indicate nothing to them, and that is your response. Some individuals only comprehend your worth when they are compelled to exist without it. They never considered about the assistance. You provided the atmosphere. You contributed the direction. You established circumstances simpler until they had to proceed without it, and when they execute, they understand that what they accepted for certain was never committed. You can't compel someone to appreciate you. You can't establish someone perceive your worth by continuously reminding them of it. You can't request someone to appreciate you. The more you attempt to justify, the more they oppose. The more you pursue, the more they escape. The more you provide without being appreciated, the more they accept without considering twice. But when you eliminate yourself, when you cease demonstrating, when you permit quietness, execute the speaking, they are departed with nothing but their own considerations, and those considerations will either establish them, understand your value, or reveal the reality that they never appreciated you. To commence with the most challenging instruction arrives from forfeiture. Sometimes the only Direction to demonstrate someone what you intended to them is to permit them experience your lack statements, won't execute it, discussions won't execute it, disputes won't execute it. Only the vacancy departed behind can establish them. Perceive what they disregarded, and if it doesn't, then you possess your response, because someone who genuinely appreciates you will not permit your lack. Proceed. Unrecognized lack reveals genuine emotions. Individuals constantly discover the intense direction. When they forfeit someone who genuinely cared for them, the reality is occupied of individuals who understood too delayed what they possessed. They only perceived the significance of that individual. When the connections ceased, the existence vanished. The faithfulness was no longer provided, and by then the destruction was executed. Lack doesn't just disclose your value to others, it discloses their genuine emotions about you. If they permit you, proceed without a reconsideration. If they advance on without reluctance, if they don't even recognize that you're absent, that is all the evidence you require. You were never genuinely appreciated, and as agonizing as that reality is, it is essential you don't possess to demonstrate your value. It is not your occupation to persuade someone of your worth. It is not your occupation to request for appreciation if someone cannot perceive what you deliver to the situation. If they cannot identify your value while you are there, permit lack instruct them. Either they will understand what they forfeited and establish an attempt to restore it, or they will demonstrate you that they never genuinely cared. Either direction you obtain understanding. Lack is an influential separator. It eliminates the ones who were only there for convenience. It distinguishes those who genuinely cared from those who only appreciated the advantages of your existence. It reveals who is genuine and was only accepting benefit. It compels individuals to demonstrate their genuine purposes without you having to communicate a statement. Because if someone does not challenge for you when you extract away, if they do not overlook you when you are absent, then your existence never genuinely mattered to them. And if that is the circumstance, why squander your duration? Why challenge for someone who was only possessing on out of routine, not out of genuine care? Why install your atmosphere into someone who wouldn't even recognize if you departed when you advance? Back when you proceed peaceful. When you permit lack, execute the function you provide. Individuals the opportunity to demonstrate you who they genuinely are. If they care, they will recognize. If they affection you, they will extend out. If they appreciate you, they won't permit you escape away without a challenge.